Welcome back to another tabletop review. Today we'll take a look at the SilencerCo Warlock 22 Suppressor. I'm just going to start out here by saying that the SilencerCo Warlock 22 Suppressor is one of the most popular 22 suppressors out there. It's slim and light, has a good price, and it can work very well at reducing the noise of a gun shot safely to the point that ear protection isn't needed. Okay, if that's all you wanted to know, I guess you can move on to other videos out there. Otherwise, here are the locations of the topics covered in this video, in case you want to continue watching but want to skip ahead to a particular topic. No problem. Alright, let's face it, most of us want a suppressor to make our firearm as quiet as possible. In movies, you often hear just a pfft sound. A great example is the 2017 movie John Wick Chapter 2, in which the main character, played by Keanu Reeves, and another gunman are firing back and forth at each other in an apparently unaware crowd. But we know that movies are just movies, not the real world. So the question is, how quiet will using a suppressor really make the firearm? That actually depends on a number of factors, as we'll see. Reducing the noise of shooting a gun is the objective of a suppressor. The noise comes from not only the gunpowder exploding to force the projectile out of the barrel, but also the concussion with the air the bullet travels through. If the bullet travels faster than the speed of sound, which is between 1060 to 1200 feet per second, depending on conditions, usually about 1100 feet per second, you'll even have the addition of a loud crack as the bullet breaks the sound barrier. To reduce sound, you'll need to reduce what makes the sound. So you can either, 1, use ammunition with a lower velocity to eliminate the sonic sound crack, and or 2, using a suppressor like a car muffler, you can reduce the noise that comes from the rapid expansion and release of gases. Now, let me assure you that all the guns used in this video have been double checked and cleared. By the way, if you enjoy this review, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. But let's back up a little and take a brief look at the history behind suppressors. If you're not interested, just skip ahead to the next section. The first commercially available suppressor was produced in 1909 by the American inventor Hiram Piercy Maxim. At the time when mufflers for external combustion engines were being developed, Maxim utilized the same noise reduction principles to create the Maxim silencer. By 1912, Maxim had founded his own company, Maxim Silencers Incorporated, and was widely advertising his silencers to the public through sporting goods catalogs where they were available by mail order. Although Maxim referred to his device as a silencer, the term is somewhat misleading since the firearm's not actually silenced, but rather muffled, or the sound is suppressed. And again, keep in mind that you'll have that crack if the ammo is supersonic. The goal is to reduce the noise to safe hearing levels where hearing protection is no longer necessary. Today we tend to refer to these devices as suppressors. Using a system of baffles, suppressors allow gases to expand, cool off, and disperse more slowly, decreasing muzzle flash and recoil while reducing noise. These devices have also earned the nickname of cans, as in tin can, for obvious reasons. Now for the bad news. In 1934, the National Firearms Act, NFA, was implemented as a means to restrict and regulate certain firearms and devices. A $200 tax was added to the purchase as well as a clearing process. This law remains in effect today and is managed by the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, the ATF. But the heavy $200 tax on suppressors has not increased. So I think it's important to remember the current $200 tax would have been equal to an outrageous $4,083 in today's dollars back in 1934. It might help to think about that when you're paying that $200 federal tax fee for your suppressor today. But as you can imagine, this tax basically halted suppressor development for decades. It wasn't until only a few years ago that modern materials innovation, costs to produce, and public interest brought suppressor ownership into reality for the average gun enthusiast. By the way, states also have their own laws governing private ownership of suppressors. Currently, suppressors are legal for private ownership in only 42 states and legal for hunting in only 40. Sounds complicated. So a good question about now should be, why buy a suppressor? Okay, I can only relate my own story, and I'll be honest, ever since I was a little kid, if someone said I couldn't do or have something, well, now that was exactly what I wanted. I'll admit it's childish and it still pushes my buttons though, so you just see suppressors, often referred to by their original but inaccurate name of silencers in movies, but they weren't available at most gun stores, and if they were, the price and the process of buying one was just a deterrent. So about 5 years ago, when one of my local gun shops started to carry suppressors and eagerly offered to assist me through the process, well, I started to get serious about the opportunity. I didn't buy one right away because I didn't own a gun with a threaded barrel. But that changed a few years ago when I bought a Smith & Wesson M&P 22 compact pistol with threaded barrel. Shortly after that, I bought the Walther PPK 22 pistol, also with a threaded barrel. But still the question was, did I really need a suppressor? Well, need? Probably not. And beyond the cost of the suppressor itself were the state restrictions, paperwork, and the additional federal tax of $200, and a 6-month or more waiting period. I also knew that there were good subsonic 22 ammo out there today that can be amazingly quiet by itself. And if all I wanted was a quiet day at the range, well, that was a possibility. So here's an example. If your objective is just to get a very quiet outcome for your 22 range gun, you may decide these quiet ammo solutions are a cheaper way to go compared to the cost and hassle of acquiring a suppressor for your 22. However, according to our readings, without a suppressor, even with these quiet rounds, the noise of a gunshot will still exceed 70 decibels, and noise levels above 70 decibels can cause tinnitus, hearing damage, or noise-induced hearing loss. Another problem is that these low-velocity rounds may not be as accurate as you'd like, especially at greater distances. And even more of a problem is that they often won't cycle in semi-automatic action, just not enough power. But otherwise, they can at least reduce some of the noise. Something to think about. But doing some research, I also found that suppressors actually do more than just reduce the acoustic intensity of the muzzle report, that is, the noise from the gunshot. Like a muzzle brake, which is used to redirect a portion of the propellant gases to counter recoil and unwanted muzzle rise, a suppressor can reduce recoil and muzzle rise, even in .22 caliber. A suppressor can be beneficial in this regard, improving the controllability of the firearm as well as reducing concussion, making the gun safer on the ears and more pleasant to shoot. So the next question was, which suppressor should I buy? In this case, I relied on my salesman to guide me, and in the end I decided on the SilencerCo Warlock 22 on sale for $270. With only 1 inch in diameter and only 6 inches in length, made of lightweight aluminum and weighing only 3 ounces, the Warlock 22 has minimal first round pop and is easy to service, which I thought would be important. With its lifetime warranty and low cost, the SilencerCo Warlock 22 seemed to make the most sense for my needs at the time. Another thing, I'm fortunate that one of my gun stores has a really good range where they not only rent out firearms for the range, if you buy a suppressor from them, they'll keep it at their range for your use while you're waiting for your paperwork to clear and your federal stamp to arrive. I thought that was a great deal and a heck of an incentive to buy from them. By the way, most people I know have purchased their suppressor through the online stores of either the Silencer Shop of Austin, Texas, or Silencer Central of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and appear to have had pretty good experiences. So with the assistance of my gun store, I was able to take advantage of their in-store registration system, which utilized the Silencer Shop e-trust system. They took my photo for their required photo ID and uploaded it in my application, so I was able to file for the federal stamp, tax stamp needed to purchase the suppressor. Because it was all electronic and in-store, I didn't need to go get an outside notary or mess with sending stuff back and forth. Once I was registered in the Silencer Shop system, I could apply for additional suppressor purchases if I wanted. Of course, the total wait time for processing everything for the tax stamp was still between 6 and 9 months or more, but again, I was able to use my suppressor at their range while I waited. Not bad. Okay, I've had this suppressor more than a year now, so the question is, how has the Warlock 22 worked out? Did I make the right decision? The SilencerCo Warlock II 22 suppressor came in a nice padded box. It came with the suppressor, and then it also came with an invitation to join the American Suppressor Association. It came with a tool, came with a bag for carrying the suppressor, and also we have a warning card here. And then we have a spacer that is used on most rifle barrels that will be required. And we have instructions here on the use of the tool for taking the suppressor apart. And we have a manual. The caliber is .22 long rifle. The length is 6 inches. The diameter is 1 inch. Weight is 3 ounces. Finish is a hard coat anodized. The materials, the baffle and the end caps, are made of 70-75 T6 aluminum. The tube is a 60-61 T6 aluminum, and the thread mount is 17-4 stainless steel. The Warlock is rated at 41 decibels of reduction, and by the way, the suppressor can be run wet, which just means adding water to the suppressor and dumping out the excess before use. The Warlock is for .22 long rifle only and should not be used on full auto. Now, I know what I said about reducing recoil and muzzle rise, but on a .22, to be honest, a suppressor isn't going to show much of an improvement. So what's the obvious purpose for a suppressor? When it comes right down to it, the reason we invest in a suppressor is because we want to reduce noise, making for a safer and more enjoyable shooting experience. What I want to show is the actual sound reduction, so I've selected 3 .22 firearms that I think might provide a pretty good demonstration. Also, I've selected 3 different types of .22 ammo for our experiment. I regularly shoot CCI Mini Mag 40 grain rounds rated at 1235 feet per second, so that'll be one type. The second is the Aguila Subsonic hollow point 38 grain rounds at 1024 feet per second, because although subsonic, they're pretty close to the CCI's feet per second. And for the third, we'll shoot some CCI Quiet 22 40 grain rounds rated at 710 feet per second. And that's the lowest feet per second rounds I could find. By the way, in perspective, I've got an air rifle that shoots pellets at 650 feet per second, and there's almost no noise. Now for firearms, I also wanted to see the difference that barrel length might make, and I also thought I should choose .22s that haven't been ammo finicky. I selected the Walther PPK S22 with a 3.3 inch barrel length, and I selected the Browning Buckmark Plus Vision with a 5 7/8 inch barrel length, and then I selected the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 Sport Rifle with a barrel length of 16.5 inches. With the help of my buddy Dave, we used the 3 different types of ammo, firing each gun 3 times without a suppressor and 3 times with the suppressor again, and 3 different types of ammo. We tried using a decibel reading meter, but it didn't seem to work very well, but the difference is audible enough for our demonstration. I'll also warn you that the lower velocity ammo, as you'll see, usually wasn't powerful enough to cycle the action on the semi-automatic guns. But in addition, keep in mind that it will obviously impact your range accuracy. So if you're hunting, keep that in mind when you're trying to get the quietest results through the low velocity ammo. First is the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 with CCI Mini Mags, 3 shots. Then 3 shots with the Aguila Subsonic, and then 3 shots with the CCI Quiet rounds. Then we repeat with the Warlock suppressor installed on the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522. Then we repeat the same process using the Browning Buckmark, beginning with the CCI Mini Mags, 3 shots each, and finally we repeat with the Walther PPK 22. 3 shots. Okay. Well, there's no doubt that without the suppressor, the lower velocity Aguila Subsonic was quieter than the CCI Mini Mags. And the CCI quiets were even more quiet than Aguila Subsonic on all these firearms. That was expected. With the Warlock II suppressor, all the firearms benefited in noise reduction, but the differences between the Aguila Subsonic and the CCI quiet rounds when using the suppressor wasn't very noticeable. And at least to Dave and me, using the Aguila Subsonic ammo, we really couldn't detect a difference between the long barrel Smith & Wesson rifle and the short barrel pistols. Now obviously, because of the cycling problems with the CCI quiet rounds, we couldn't recommend their use in semi-automatic firearms. And although the Buckmark didn't like them, we had less problems with the Aguila Subsonic when using the suppressor. The additional noise reduction with the CCI quiets just wasn't sufficient enough to warrant their use with the suppressor. Personally, I would have reserved the CCI quiet rounds for use in my .22 revolvers. As for cons, my biggest gripe is the aluminum construction and iodized finish means that you can't just toss the Warlock or its parts into an ultrasonic cleaner. To protect the anodized finish, cleaning must be done by hand, which is a bit tedious. But it's okay to use solvents or light abrasive media on the baffles. Good thing it isn't required frequently. Cleaning is recommended after 1,000 rounds. Also, I think the baffles could have been constructed with notches or something to assist in their alignment. By the way, if you run the suppressor wet, you'll need to clean it after each use, which is why I don't run it wet. Finally, a con about suppressors in general: they can loosen and begin to walk off the gun barrel under use. So you have to check them after each magazine use. A loose suppressor will not only mess with your accuracy, you can potentially get a strike out the end of the suppressor, which could really ruin your day. By the way, a couple of wraps with plumber's tape on just the barrel threads of the gun can reduce that possibility of that problem from happening. As for pros, the Warlock 22 is surprisingly quiet. First round pop, which is typical with suppressors, is indeed minimal. The unit is small and very lightweight, only 3 ounces, so balance and maneuverability are not compromised. The 1-inch diameter means that the stock sights on your .22 firearm will probably not be obstructed by the suppressor. The Warlock 22 stacked baffle design is user serviceable. Disassembly is easy and uncomplicated, and a tool for takedown is provided. And the Warlock's price is reasonable. Disassembly and reassembly of the Warlock 22 is easy. For service, all we do is just loosen the end cap first. We use the tool for that. And then we loosened the end that attaches to the gun. Again, we can use the tool for that. And we can remove the baffle set from the tube. The baffles are just snapped together and they easily come apart. The outside of the baffle should have remained carbon free. That's by design. And as I said, they easily snap apart and back together again. The inside of the baffles can be cleaned with copper and plastic brushes. 30 caliber brush works best. The unit reassembles the same as it came apart, just lining up the little cutout on the end of the baffle there as you reassemble. The manufacturer's suggested retail price is $299, but I paid $270 for the SilencerCo Warlock II last year. It appears to still be available at that price today. Of course, that's just for the suppressor itself. Expect to pay an additional $200 for the federal tax stamp. Now, before we end today's video, I'd like to remind you that if you haven't already, be sure to like, share, and subscribe down below. And thanks for watching, and I hope you've found this video helpful. Well, there's no doubt that the Warlock II 22 suppressor reduces the noise these firearms made, but ammo type and velocity can also affect noise reduction. In the end, I think the results of our experiment were still interesting. The Walther PPK S22 and the Smith & Wesson M&P 1522 worked well with the Aguila Subsonic ammo for the best overall performance. No problem cycling at all and good noise reduction. So basically you need to pair the Warlock with the right firearm as well as the right subsonic ammo to get the best overall results. Okay, so back to my original question. How has the Warlock 22 suppressor worked out? Did I make the right decision? And was the Warlock worth what it cost? Well, no doubt I've scratched that itch regarding owning a suppressor, but it hasn't been cheap. And although it's great when introducing a novice to shooting, for the most part, owning a suppressor is a bit of a novelty. I can't say that I really needed one, but I have to say that I really enjoyed it. And as I said, it has certainly proven itself to be useful in training situations. But would I do it again? Probably. And how about the SilencerCo Warlock 22 suppressor? Oh yeah, the Warlock is indeed a great choice for a 22 suppressor. I like how compact and lightweight it is. It had a great low price. I like its looks, and with the right subsonic ammo, it's effective in reducing the noise of a gunshot safely to the point that ear protection isn't needed. What more could you ask for? Any weapon you carry is better than the one you left at home. Thanks for watching. Hope you'll be back for my next tabletop review. Until next time, stay safe.